Oh!
Welcome to The Whole You. My name is Dr. Kate Edwards, and I'm your host. Today we have Dr. Julie Granger with us, and we're going to talk about diet, inflammation, energy, what we can do to help ourselves in the kitchen to make us feel better. Okay? Here's Julie.
Hi.
Julie and I went to graduate school together. We're both physical therapists, but she's also starting a new certificate. What's that program that you're doing now?
It's the Women's Health and Nutrition Certification, or Women's Health and Nutrition Coaching Certification with the Integrative Women's Health Institute. And we target mainly the health needs of women, and for me included girls and teenagers.
Yeah, so that's why I've decided to have her on the show. I thought her new knowledge would really benefit all of you, and absolutely benefit me as well, which of course is great.
You are a woman.
Well, thanks.
After all.
Julie and I went to school together, which I said. We also used to work together. And while we were working together, both of us went through a huge life change. So you guys know about my life change, but Julie went through something as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? Sure.
Yeah, I went through, I was diagnosed with cancer a little over 2 years ago and underwent lots and lots of treatment for that. I'm doing great now.
Yeah.
And in the whole process of that, really renovated and revamped my whole life from a mind, body, and spiritual perspective.
Yeah, and as did I, and that's why the show exists. So I thought she would be, not only because of her knowledge, but also her background, would be a great person for you guys to meet and learn from.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So I think what we'll start with is that kind of list of 4 things that everybody should have in their kitchen that could improve their health benefits. So things that we may or may not already have, or things that we should run out and grab because we can start adding it to things, not changing what we're doing a lot.
Okay, so this was really, really hard for me to narrow down when Kate said I had to pick 4 things. So I would narrow down to the top 4 things to have in your fridge or in your cupboard would be avocado, dark chocolate, coconut oil, and turmeric.
Nice. And why would you add any of these?
So avocado is chock full of healthy fats and fiber. So lots and lots of nutrients that help you get a lot of energy, but also detoxify your system. So we're faced with toxins throughout our world, whether it's from the plastics we drink out of or the chemicals we use in our household products and lots of other things. So while most of us have naturally good detoxification pathways in our bodies, sometimes they can be a little slow and sluggish. So using food to help support that can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I find avocado is actually a great substitute if you're making things like, we all know, and I've said this I think in every episode I've ever made, that I love chocolate. But when you can even make like a chocolate mousse and put the avocado in there to improve the consistency. So that's a great thing. And then in smoothies, which we'll talk about at some other point. Yeah, great. And then what about coconut oil?
Coconut oil. So coconut oil is really nice to use in cooking, but you can also use it on your skin. You can use it in your hair. You can use it in lots of places. So having it around is really helpful for more than food. But it's naturally an anti-inflammatory oil. It has, you can eat it by the spoonful because it is solid and it brings you some energy and nutrients with healthy fats. And it's naturally anti-inflammatory. So it adds like a really nice ability to fight off toxins that might be infectious. So you might have something like a bacterial infection or a viral infection or perhaps a fungal infection. Coconut oil can be helpful for all 3 of those without having to rely on medications, especially if you've taken a lot of medications and you're not getting anywhere. So coconut oil can be really helpful for that.
That's really cool. And one of the things I like it for is my husband's always hungry. And sometimes people that are always hungry or not completely satisfied don't have enough fat in their diet. So for him, sometimes I'll heat up a little bit of coconut oil, and I'll drizzle it on his food in addition to whatever I've made so that he can be more full.
It's a nice sneaky way to do that.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't watch this.
Don't tell him. Yeah, and athletes a lot of times don't get enough fats either, which is an energy source for active pursuits, but also for recovery. So coconut oil is a really nice way to get the healthy fat in, a really fast, inexpensive way to do it, as is avocado. Yeah.
And then what about turmeric? Because turmeric is one of those things that it's actually like a craze right now. So it's in everything and it's everywhere. What are the benefits of turmeric?
Turmeric is like herbal NSAIDs, so the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
Yep.
It's not as strong as them, so you don't necessarily want to replace it if a physician or a medical provider has recommended you take them. But it can help support an anti-inflammatory process, whether it's something like arthritis or an injury or a disease pathway. And turmeric is actually implicated to be very anti-cancer as well. So there's a lot of good studies behind that. You can take it in capsule form, or you can actually just keep it in a nice spice bottle in your cabinet. You can actually get it in root form from the grocery store as well. So a lot of grocery stores have root turmeric that's right next to the ginger, root ginger as well. You can get it, you can grate it, and add it to whatever you eat. The thing, and we'll talk about in upcoming episodes, is if you add turmeric to anything in your food, you need to add a pinch of black pepper and make sure you pair it with a healthy fat for optimum absorption. Because otherwise, I mean, you know, sometimes it adds a awkward spice to your food, and you may as well get the most out of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then there was a fourth thing that you told me.
Well, Kate loves chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
So do I. Can't live without it. When I was told at some point I wasn't supposed to eat chocolate, I really thought the world was ending.
I was told the same thing, and I nearly died.
Yeah.
And they took everything away from me, even chocolate, and I thought, I don't know what the point is.
Yeah.
But luckily, not the case.
So a really nice high percentage dark chocolate, high percentage of cacao, dark chocolate is amazing to have. So I usually like to say 70% or higher is really pure chocolate and has a lower sugar content in it to help support antioxidation. So that helps everything from anti-inflammation to deoxidizing your system, which happens, oxidative stress happens when we're processing nutrients and toxins and things like that, and can lead to cell damage. And then ultimately, lots of inflammatory processes, one of which is cancer, and lots of other issues as well. So antioxidants are really helpful, and that's really, really rich in dark chocolate.
Oh, nice. And just in case anybody notices, we are at my house, which is a little bit vulnerable sometimes to bring someone into your home. But we're here, and my dog, Austin, who is a beautiful blue Weimaraner, is walking around, licking our hands, and well, there he is. Hi, buddy. So that's what the distraction is if you see it, okay? I really wanted to have this episode because I wanted people to realize how much easier it was to eat healthy. So things that people often ask me about in my practice as a physical therapist are, what kind of things can I do to help decrease inflammation in my body? What things can I eat to improve my energy? And what changes, easy changes, can I make to help me lose weight or feel better? So those are kind of the things that we've touched upon a little bit of that, but I'd love a little bit more of your input, and probably just a little bit more of, helping with weight loss and energy, because we've talked more about inflammation. That would be great.
Great. What was the first question? Let's go back to that.
I know, I have several questions, actually. The first question is, what are some simple changes they can make in their life to help them start living a little bit healthier?
Simple changes in their life to live a little bit healthier.
Yeah, particularly when it comes to food.
Well, I think that the first thing to know before you start making changes, there's two things to know. First thing, there's no such thing as a perfect diet or lifestyle.
I agree with that, absolutely.
Regardless of what you read, regardless of what you subscribe to, before you decide you want to make changes, is you have to figure out what works the best for you. If that means you want to talk to a doctor, you want to read some blogs, really listen to your heart and listen to your body about what your needs are, and get some information from a diverse number of sources and figure out what works best for you. The second thing is that if you make a change, make sure you have the systems in the place to support that.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, let's say that I want to eliminate something from my diet. I'm going to use something that's really common that a lot of people are talking about eliminating these days, which is gluten. I'm not saying, by the way, that you need to eliminate gluten, but if you choose to, or it's recommended to you by a medical provider, then before you even try and eliminate it, before you go out and buy gluten-free marketed things, make sure that you have the support in place that you might need in case you decide that you're missing your favorite gluten-filled food. So for me, it would always be pizza. What is my alternative to wheat crust going to be before I decide that I'm going to eliminate gluten? Because food can be really emotional for us. It can be something that can bring a level of stress when we start making changes. So we want to make sure that, one, if you have a family, maybe see if the whole family can get on board with it, because it's really hard to cook for one person while everyone else is eating hamburgers and pizza and all the stuff that you might miss.
Well, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because what I did when I decided to go gluten-free was that one day while my husband was at work, I cleaned out the entire cabinet. I put everything that had gluten in it in a box, and I went out and replaced everything, and I didn't tell him. And that's pretty typical around here. I do my best to think about it, but it didn't occur to me that he might be upset, because he usually likes what I cook. But he was very upset that I did that, and he subsequently went through the box and took out half of it and put it back in the cupboard. So since then, we've worked through it, and we've figured out how to make it work in our house, but it was a big deal, and I didn't actually think it would impact anybody. It was me being a little bit self-centered and not really realizing what an impact changing your diet can be to your entire family.
For me, I decided I was going to go all in 24 hours.
Shocking.
And yeah, I don't recommend that for anyone. Even if you think you can do it and you feel like you have all the systems in place, make it a nice, slow process. But I was in the middle of trying to make coconut flour pancakes, and I didn't have the right know-how and skills at the time. And even though I was following the recipe, they came out as coconut clumps. And I was so hungry because I had eliminated all the foods that I was used to. I started crying in the middle of the kitchen. I was hangry, and it was really stressful. So what I did is what I would have preferred to do going into it, is I gave myself about several weeks grace time to build up to a full elimination of gluten. So I just started picking out one thing at a time that felt achievable and not too stressful, while adding in, that's the other thing, always be ready to add in something to replace anything you've cut out. Yep. So you always need that alternative, and then you need the family, mental, emotional systems, logistical support in your life to support it. And gluten's one of those that sandwiches, right? So not every, it's a hard to get on the go fuel, like a sandwich or a bar or something like that. You start to realize really quickly, oh no, I can't eat that. And you start reading labels. It gets really stressful. You have to spend more time at the grocery store.
Yep.
So get some support, read about what it takes to really get it done, do your research before you actually start making changes. I'd say that's the single most important thing to know to make changes versus actually making the changes. Because if you're watching this, my guess is you probably care about your health, and you'll make the changes. You're dedicated, you're motivated, and the act of doing it is not as hard as the act of preparing for it. That's it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And preparing for it initially, but also preparing for it every week.
Right.
So making a plan on how you're going to maintain this lifestyle, and just, like you said, have systems in place where, I freeze a lot of things and cook for several hours at a time, and then it makes it easy and you can stick to it.
Yeah, I like what you said about maintain. I think that slower, more step-by-step changes are much more sustainable in the long run. If that's something you'd like to do, is sustain it for the long run, than trying to do it all at once, and then trying to live up to this mythical unicorn example of the perfect diet and the perfect lifestyle. Remember, that does not exist. Just like, spoiler alert, unicorns don't exist.
I know, right?
So it's okay to slip up. As long as you don't have a medical reason to be eliminating or changing something, it's okay to slip up. And even if you do, pending that, again, you don't have a major medical reason to accidentally cheat or add something back in, it's okay. You'll be okay. Just get back on the horse the next day.
Yeah. And I also think it's a good point that if you decide to change it and you don't like how it's going and it's not working, you can always go back to what you were doing before. It's not a failure. There's no such thing as that. It's just you're trying something out and you're eventually going to make it work.
Great.
So good. I think one last thing that we should talk about before we actually get to cooking or showing everybody what we're talking about is, let's talk about energy.
Yeah.
Because our society lives on coffee and different types of energy, energy drinks, things like that, that aren't necessarily the best option. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a cup of coffee, but you don't want to constantly put that in your body and try to get energy that way. So what are some things that people can add to their diet, add to common meals that might help them with their energy?
Okay. So we talked about it a little bit before. I would say that the biggest and easiest thing to add to your diet is healthy fats. Super, super easy. So that could be anything from nuts, seeds, avocados, coconut oil, any types of healthy oils. to quinoas, just some of the more ancient grains have some fat in them. It's great. Bananas have fat in them. So it's a misnomer, and I think that our culture's starting to shift out of this, but it's still very much talked about that fatty foods lead to increased fat. So Kate had mentioned, like, people are often asking about losing weight, but actually increasing your fats can stimulate your metabolism so that you can lose more weight and have more energy. So both of those are really important, especially if you're active at all.
Well, I think it's important to say that it's possible to be eating more fats, getting more energy, and lose weight. Like, those things go together. And I think that oftentimes people think that you have to starve yourself or not eat very much or cut out all the fats to get there, but that's actually detrimental to them.
That's right. Yep. Absolutely.
Good. Well, are there any other tips or any other things that you think we should let them know before we start cooking?
I would definitely say that listen to your body, and if something doesn't feel right, you can stop. Like Kate said before, you can go back to what it was, and then always don't be afraid to ask for help. That's something that people struggle with their diets and figuring out what the right answers are. And again, there's no one right answer, and figuring out what the right answer is for you. Sometimes it's necessary to ask for help. Ask a friend, ask a professional, just to kind of help lead you in the right direction.
No, I think that's great. And on that note, your website is precisionwellness.com, right?
Say that again.
Prism.
Oh,
that's mine. I'm Precision. That's my company. That's hilarious.
Prism Wellness Center.
PrismWellnessCenter.com.
Yeah.
So don't go to Precision Wellness, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Try it, actually. We're wondering.
I wonder what it says.
Let us know where you get to.
Yeah, that would be great. But Prism Wellness Center.com. And you can follow Julie there. And she always has a lot of good information about women, health, wellness, that kind of thing. So thanks very much, Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to make is a green smoothie. It's on-the-go green smoothie. So we're trying to make something that will be fast and easy for you to take out the door, but still have a lot of health benefits. We're going to make some really good Blondie pumpkin spice. Is that how we want? Pumpkin spice bars. They can be snacks or they can be dessert. And then we're also going to be making a little bit of, or something like a casserole, right? Typical casserole, called the rainbow casserole. And we can make it vegan or we can make it with some meat. So we're going to go through all of these things and talk about why we're choosing what. And make it for you. Go ahead.
So I like what Kate said about we can make something vegan, we can use animal products. Everything's interchangeable, and we've brought a lot of things here to show you how you can do just that, and to cover all of the things we covered last week in terms of a really nice, healthy eating plan for yourself. So we have the on-the-go green smoothie first. And smoothies are one of those things that are really easy. You can make them ahead of time. What I love to do with smoothies is make a really big batch, almost 2 batches of them in the full blender, and drink half of it and then freeze the other half of it. And a really nice, easy way to freeze half of it is to get silicone cupcake liners, fill them, stick them in the freezer, so then you can take it out of the cupcake liner really fast, throw it into the blender, put a little bit more of whatever type of liquid you'd like, whether it's almond milk or coconut milk, regular milk, or some type of green juice, and then mix it back up and take it with you really fast. So you don't have to spend your time in the morning or whenever you tend to make your smoothie making everything out in front of you like you usually do. So something like a meal prep.
That's a really good idea. One thing that I do, I also make a green smoothie. It's a little bit different than this one, but I have small mason jars and I fill it with all of the dry stuff that I'm going to add, and I store it in my cupboard so that in the morning when I'm rushing, I just take it, I dump it in, and then I add the usually spinach or almond milk or whatever. So
I love that idea.
Yeah, so there are a few ways that you can make it faster and easier so that you can eat well on the go.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a barrier for a lot of people is it's hard to make changes when you don't have the systems in place to make those changes. So planning the systems ahead up front is usually the way to go versus just saying, oh, I want to start eating healthier, I want to do an anti-inflammatory diet. If you start to do the logistics behind it first, it's much less overwhelming and it leads to much more sustainable results.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things I personally struggled with at first was, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So I took everything out of my cabinet and then I realized, okay, this isn't going to work. I have to figure out a system.
Yeah.
So this is a good way, freezing it or preparing ahead of time.
And if you are the all or nothing type of person, the systems are really nice because all or nothing type of people tend to like to have systems and checklists and things like that. So if you allow yourself the space to do that ahead of time and plan ahead, then it makes it a lot easier to do. And it's much less overwhelming. And it gives you time to experiment, have fun with it as well, which I think is the most important part. Is always having fun with what you're eating.
Right.
So with our smoothie, you'll need a blender. You can use any kind of blender. You don't need a super fancy blender, but if you want to go buy one, have at it. What I typically like to put in first is the liquid. That makes it a lot easier for your blender to digest whatever you're putting in there, is when the liquid goes in the bottom first. So if you're not familiar with making smoothies, that's sort of smoothie 101 for you. So you can put about half a cup to a cup's worth of liquid into the blender. We chose almond milk for this particular smoothie. Again, you can use any type of liquid you want, whether it's almond milk, whether it's coconut milk, regular milk, or any type of juice. Sometimes I'll use a green juice that is pretty low in sugar just to help decrease inflammation and allow myself to absorb the nutrients a lot better. But sometimes I'll use like fresh squeezed grapefruit juice or something like that as well. It just kind of depends on what my mood is. So I'm gonna put about a cup in here.
And I like to say too, with smoothies, you don't have to be exact.
You really don't.
We usually just kind of throw everything in, but for your sake, we're going to tell you a little bit.
Exactly. So I put about a cup of almond milk, and then what I like to put in next is all of the green stuff, so to let it kind of puree really well. So we've got a whole bunch of kale here. We chose kale because it's a cruciferous vegetable, which allows your body to have support in detoxing. So it really helps support the liver when it comes to detoxing all sorts of toxins or unwanted nutrients or unwanted things out of your body. So kale is one of those other things. People put cauliflower and broccoli in their smoothies. To me, whenever I heard that at first, I thought that sounded nasty. But I've tried it, and cauliflower actually is quite agreeable with a smoothie. And then spinach is not exactly a crucifer, but it does have a lot of nice nutritional value in it. So people love to put spinach in smoothies as well. So this is the real exact part about putting green stuff in a smoothie. So bear with me. It's a handful or two, depending on how much green you want.
Or what mood you're in, right?
Or what mood you're in, yeah.
Or if your child is talking to you.
Or depending on how many vegetables you've had that day or that week. If you're trying to get them in fast, this is the way to do it. Sneak them in. And so that I don't forget, I will go ahead and add in the green vegetable masking agent. So a lot of people are resistant to doing a green smoothie because they're like, ugh, that sounds awful. Why would I want to drink vegetables? So here's the hack. So this is a great hack, is you need some type of citrus juice that if you put the citrus juice in there, fresh squeezed, it will mask the flavor of the green stuff, whether it's spinach, whether it's kale, and it works like a charm. So we have a lemon.
Oh, yep. And if you hear some noise in the background, I did not crate my dog, Austin. I hope you get to see him at some point. He likes to be around when I'm cooking and make a lot of noise when nobody's paying attention to him.
Exactly. We love dogs.
I know.
Dogs are amazing. All right, so lemon will help mask the flavor of the kale. Sometimes I like to go a little bit more of a lime flavor, just depending on what I'm feeling that day. We have cilantro here, so I love a little cilantro lime flavor in my smoothies sometimes. Either one will work great. So you can squeeze with your hand, use a juicer or even just one of those fruit squeezers. Use whatever sophisticated devices you like. I'm just going to do this and squeeze it in the best we can. It's okay to get the seeds in there because that adds nutritional value. And the other thing that lemon juice adds is gut cleansing. So it's really, really nice for cleansing the gut and stimulating your metabolism. So if you're having any type of indigestion or just difficulty absorbing nutrients, lemon can be a nice thing to support that.
I usually take lemon and a little bit of apple cider vinegar and hot water in the morning before I eat anything to help me detox a little bit.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Yep. If you have reflux, that's another nice little elixir to make yourself.
Yes. And I'm actually glad you said something about the seeds because I find myself, I'm sure you're shocked, picking out all of the seeds before I use the lemon, and it's very annoying. So
completely
it's nice
fine.
to know.
They go in there, and if your blender doesn't blend them up all the way, you'll know as soon as you drink it. And if that annoys you, definitely pick them out ahead of time to save yourself time. But if you drink it, it's okay to just spit the seed out. Have a seed spitting contest with yourself. Whatever. So that's the lemon. That's the masking agent of the green. We have cilantro here as well. I love cilantro in almost every recipe because it has that little bit of sweetness to it.
Yes.
And it goes well with salty and sweet. So in this case, the smoothie is going to be, you'll find soon that it's not going to be super sweet. You can make it sweet if you'd like. So again, this is going to be a little bit more of a pinch. Cilantro helps with detoxification. It also, especially towards heavy metals. So if you have ever had any implants or anything in your body that have metal in them, those can increase inflammation in your body and make you feel kind of bad. Or if you've ever had anything like lead poisoning, cilantro is actually a really great herb to help support that. So you saw that very exact measurement there, the pinch of cilantro. I'd say if you really wanted to know the measurement, that was about a tablespoon of cilantro.
I had no idea that it helped detox metal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great for anybody that has like a knee replacement, hip replacement. I have a defibrillator, which is metal, so that's great. I definitely will be adding more cilantro.
Yeah, cilantro is really supportive of that. So then after our greens, I like to stay natural in my thought process of making sure I have everything in the smoothie. We have everything laid out really nicely here in my own kitchen. Usually I'm pulling things out of the cupboards and out of the fridge on the go as I'm making the smoothie. This is real life, people. Okay, so...
No, this is how I do it.
Yeah. You laid out. Fine.
I laid it all out.
Whatever way you need to do it. So still thinking like natural things here. I'm in the plant mindset. So then you can add berries. So you can choose whatever type of fruit you want to put in your smoothie. It really depends on your mood, really depends on whatever you want. I like berries because, so I'm not supposed to be eating a lot of sugar for my own health reasons. And so berries tend to be lower in sugar, especially tart berries. But I do like to have some variety. So you can get a berry medley at your store, wherever. And I like to do frozen berries because then you don't have to add ice to your smoothie. This is ice and fruit all in one. Saves you time, saves you money. So some people like to do mango and pineapple and take a little bit more of that approach. And those are great as well to add. And those fruits tend to mask the taste of the greens just a little bit more than the berries do because the berries are a little bit more tart. Berries offer antioxidants, so that helps with detoxification and help decreasing inflammation as well.
Somebody wants to help.
Austin, do you want some berries? Okay, Austin really wants you to know that he likes berries as well. So,
Aussie, come on over here.
So again, very exact measurement. This is 10 ounces of berries in this particular bag. I would say about 5 ounces is about where you want to go. But again, you can add more or less depending on what type of flavor you want. And the really nice thing about making a smoothie is you can taste it as you go and see how it tastes to you. So that's the fruit that I personally like to add. And then there's one more fruit and one more vegetable that you can add while we're on natural things. So we have grapefruit that I like to add. Grapefruit is really, really, really supportive for detoxification and blood sugar balance. So that's one really nice thing about grapefruit. The caveat on grapefruit is if you're on any type of medication or you have a health condition where you're not supposed to have grapefruit, is you can't add that into anything.
What kind of health issues wouldn't you be able to have grapefruit in?
So if you're on a blood thinner or you have any type of liver problem, and then statin drugs, so like cholesterol medication, there's several medications that you can't have grapefruit with because what grapefruit does is it increases the metabolism of stuff through the liver, so it gets things in an increased concentration in the bloodstream. So
okay. That makes sense.
It would put things at a dangerous level for people. There's lots and lots of other drugs, cardiac drugs, diabetes drugs that grapefruit doesn't mesh with. So make sure that if you have any type of health problem that you're looking into grapefruit specifically to find out if you can have it, for sure. And then we have avocado. So avocado is technically a vegetable, but it's also a healthy fat. And it has an enormous amount of fiber. So when we say healthy fat, what we mean by healthy fat is fats that are going to really support your cholesterol balance and give you an enormous amount of energy and be metabolized fairly easily by the body. So avocado is one of those really great things I like to sneak into a smoothie for two reasons. One, extra calories. So if you're on the go all the time, sometimes it's hard to get enough calories. And I don't know how many people I know that say, oh, I just don't eat breakfast. Or I eat a piece of toast. And that's fine if you are that person. That's totally fine. But breakfast is, I mean, I've known this since I was a kid. We've all heard this. It's the most important meal of the day. Right? And if you're kind of like, oh, I can't even put food in my body, you want to be sneaking in calories anywhere you want. Now we know, really well know in research that fats do not make you fat. That is not what happens. So putting healthy fats into your smoothie, into your diet into your foods is really, really important to give you good energy. So when you're feeling tired and ragged by the end of the day or the end of the week, or even when you wake up in the morning, avocado. Can't say enough good things about it. In case you didn't notice.
How much of it do we put in?
I usually put about half.
Okay.
If you're one of those people that you don't eat the whole avocado all at once, you can, as long as you save the pit.
Yes,
so
because
save this side. No, don't take it out. Put it back in there.
Well, I'm showing them what it is.
Oh. There we are.
Because it gets rotten.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's saying.
Leave the pit in there, and then put it in. You can put it in a plastic baggie, suck all the air out of the bag, and it'll preserve it for at least 12 to 24 hours. It really kind of depends on the avocado and the environment in your house. So I usually stick it in the fridge. You can put a little bit of citrus juice on it too, and that can sometimes help keep it from turning brown. That's the most annoying thing about avocado.
Oh, absolutely.
Other thing on avocado is you want your avocado to be fairly ripe because you want it to be soft enough to scoop it right out of the shell and get it into the smoothie. If it's a not super ripe avocado, super, super hard to eat it. So just plop it in there. All right. And that makes the smoothie nice and creamy as well, which is how I love it. It kind of reminds me of ice cream.
Oh, I love it too.
Okay. On the note of healthy fat, we need the avocado in there so we can make our smoothie even more anti-inflammatory supportive. So, one herb you can use for that is turmeric. Turmeric is found in a lot of things these days. You probably see it all over restaurant menus, at smoothie places. I've seen it in chocolate, which I love making chocolates out of turmeric. That could be our next show.
Ooh, yeah, I love making chocolate.
But the thing that you want to look for if you're buying something commercially that contains turmeric is that it has black pepper with it and that it has a healthy fat. So if it's a fruity thing that has turmeric in it and there's no healthy fat and no black pepper, your chances of absorbing the turmeric are low. So it's a lot of turmeric that will move straight through you. Right. And a lot of places do tend to charge a little bit more for this very vogue, very exciting herb that we're putting in things.
So you might as well absorb it if you're going to use it.
If you're going to use it, make sure you're absorbing it. Exactly.
And I'd like to say something about turmeric myself, is that it turns everything yellow or green. So be very careful when you're using it. I found that even my food processor that was gray is kind of green on the inside because I've used it with so much turmeric. Yeah. So just know that if you're cooking with it, it's not a big deal, but it might get everywhere.
Yeah, I was totally going to say that next. I'm reading my mind.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
It's good.
Mind reading is excellent. So typically I say about a teaspoon of turmeric. This is a tablespoon, so I'm gonna just gauge about half of the turmeric.
And I usually don't measure it.
Okay,
I usually shake a few.
You can't really go wrong. Here's another thing about turmeric. Since it is a natural anti-inflammatory, if you take turmeric in like pill form and supplement form, which you can, first of all, make sure it has all the ingredients in it, at least black pepper, and then make sure you take it with a healthy fat. And then
I actually don't know how to use that, Julie. I just use Brian puts it, my husband puts it in here so that I can use it. It's just black pepper. You just have to.
Great. Perfect.
Thanks, Brian.
If you take the pills, they do thin your blood. So if you tend to have a proclivity towards bruising easily, or you're getting medical procedures done or something like that, it does lead to blood thinning. So make sure before you do anything in terms of adding herbs and supplements and things like that, always check with your physician or a registered dietitian or nutritionist just to make sure it's right for you specifically. So all the recommendations we're giving you are very general stuff. So again, very exact, a little bit of black pepper. This does not have to be a lot. And to me, when I first heard I needed to add black pepper to my fruity beverage, that was a turnoff for me. I was like, whoa, that doesn't seem to mesh.
It actually, I was kind of grimacing over here because I've not put pepper in mine.
Sounds kind of gross. So the good news is, you won't taste it at all. You will not taste it. And if you're one of those people that, I used to like margaritas that were infused with jalapeno. I hate spicy things, but I used to love a little bit of a kick in my smoothie. It gives it doesn't even give it that, but if you like it, you can add more black pepper.
That's a great idea.
And on the note of that, and on the note of adding herbs, is ginger.
I love ginger.
I love a little bit of kick in my fruity drinks, just like I was just saying, whether it's a margarita or a smoothie. So ginger is one of those things that you can add. Ginger, incredibly anti-inflammatory, incredibly antimicrobial. This is one of those herbs that is incredible for supporting your health in any way that you could possibly think of. Ginger is the way. Who knows that you're supposed to drink ginger ale when you have a stomach ache, right?
Exactly.
So it's incredibly supportive of digestion in general, and digestion being one of those tenets of increasing our nutrition, increasing our nourishment, and decreasing our inflammation. So we want to support digestion.
Great.
You want a little kick in your smoothie, add some ginger. Doesn't have to be much. Just grate it, stick a couple strands in there. You can get liquid ginger, so you can kind of get the juice form as well, and add it in there deliciously. That's enough. We're good.
Okay.
All right. So, couple more things you can add to your smoothie. Protein powder. So again, if you're looking to make this more of a meal, you want energy, which who doesn't want more energy?
Oh, I know.
Right? Protein's going to be one of those slow burning fuel sources that'll last you throughout the day.
Great.
Or the week, really. So this is a vegan protein made of hemp. You can also use, I like to use collagen protein, so it's beef collagen. Has no flavor to it whatsoever, which is great because some protein powders can get kind of grainy in a smoothie and can really turn you off a little bit from it. I find the hemp protein to be pretty good as well. So dump that guy in there on top.
How much of this do you want, by the way?
Half a grapefruit, and we have to scoop it out.
Okay, I'll do that while you're doing the other piece.
And then the last couple pieces, while she takes care of our grapefruit, is everybody likes their smoothie a different level of sweetness. So you can use any type of sweetener you desire. What I typically recommend in terms of supporting detoxification and not increasing inflammation is staying away from artificial sweeteners that are made from non-natural sources. So those tend to be the things that aren't naturally sugar or plant derived. So one thing that is naturally plant derived is monk fruit. Made from a fruit, it's just a normally sweet fruit, but it doesn't actually have sugar content in it whatsoever. It's one of these like amazing things. So you can use, I know, I'd never had it. I was buying some products from the store that were marketed as like a paleo product. And I saw it in there. I was like, I wonder if you can actually buy monk fruit. And sure enough, at the local natural food store, there's huge bags of monk fruit.
Is it something that you can find at like a Kroger or
Publix
or a regular grocery store?
I think it's starting to. Yeah, I think that, with all the sort of health craze that we're seeing, that you can start to get it at normal places as well.
And most of these things, actually, I just want to tell everyone, you could find it at a regular grocery store. I went this morning and got everything, so it's fine.
And, we talked about last week that nutrition doesn't have to be organic and it doesn't have to be all natural. I think that those are really important concepts, but if you can't afford that or you just don't have time for it or your grocery store doesn't have certain organic or all natural products, it's fine. You can totally eat whatever's available. You're doing the best you can. It's not going to hurt you to eat anything that's not organic or not all natural. I know I'm going against like
I just went
everything you have to read and anti-inflammatory world and health food diets and things like that. But it comes down to if you're going to have something non-organic that's really nutritious versus something that's not nutritious, empty calories but organic. Go with the nutritious thing that actually provides you nourishment. All right, so back to sweeteners. We have maple syrup, honey, and the monk fruit. So you can choose whatever you want to add. And again, I add it last. Usually I'll blend it first and add the sweetener last. So I'm adding it to taste. So it really depends on how sweet you want it to be. Okay. So we'll do exactly that so you can kind of see how it goes.
The top's over there. I'll actually grab a couple glasses here.
Great. All right, this is the part where it gets nice and loud.
Hopefully the dog won't bark.
And I'm going to put it on liquid.
I guess these are really big glasses. I wasn't thinking.
It's cool. A glass is a glass.
See if we can even get it out. I don't know that we can get it out. I hope you enjoy your smoothie. We'll be back in a couple more episodes to show you a couple of our other recipes.